The energy inside the studio of The View was charged, almost electric. It wasn't the usual mix of audience chatter and backstage hustle. No, this morning felt different, like a storm cloud hovering low over the iconic round table. Waiting for the first flash of lightning. Michael B. Jordan, one of Hollywood's most celebrated actors, walked onto the stage with the kind of confidence that seemed to silence even the loudest rooms. Clad in a sharp charcoal suit, his jawline tight, his posture commanding, he looked every bit the movie star. He was there to promote his latest action thriller, and by all accounts, he expected the routine: a few lighthearted jokes, a question about his training regimen, maybe a playful soundbite that would make the rounds online. At first, everything seemed on script. Whoopi Goldberg welcomed him warmly, her smile wide and genuine. Joy Behar cracked a joke about his abs, drawing easy laughter from the audience. Even Sarah N. leaned in, curiosity in her eyes. But it was Sunny Hostin who remained still, arms crossed. Face unreadable, her only acknowledgement a thin, deliberate nod. That was the moment the air shifted. Whoopi opened with the standard, crowd pleaser. We've all seen the trailers, you're leaping off helicopters, running through fire. Did you really do all those stunts yourself? Michael's face lit up, his natural charisma spilling into every word. I try to push myself, he said, grinning. I want audiences to believe what they're watching. My stunt coordinator definitely got a few more gray hairs this time around. The audience laughed, the hosts chuckled, but Sunny didn't move. No smile, no nod, just silence. When Michael finished, she finally leaned forward. Her tone was calm, but her words cut through the room like a blade. That's all very impressive, she said, her voice edged with sarcasm. But what I really want to know is, why should audiences care about yet another mindless action movie when there are real issues in the world? The laughter died instantly. The air grew heavy. Michael blinked, momentarily caught off guard, though his composure held. And just like that, the stage was set. This wasn't going to be a promotional interview. It was about to become one of the most unforgettable confrontations in live television history. Michael leaned back slightly in his chair, keeping his composure even as the silence hung in the air. I believe entertainment serves a purpose, he replied, measured but firm. Especially in difficult times, people need escapism. They need a couple of hours to breathe, to laugh, to feel inspired. That's part of what movies do. Sunny's lips curled into something between a smirk and a sneer. She repeated the word slowly, like it was poison. Escapism. How convenient for someone in your position, promoting fantasy while real people are out here suffering. The audience stirred uncomfortably. Joy leaned in quickly, her voice light but protective. Sunny, come on, he's here to talk about the movie. Let's not. But Sunny cut her off with a raised hand, her gaze never leaving Michael. You're one of the few black actors who's reached this level of success, she said, tone sharp. And instead of using that platform to tell meaningful stories, you're cashing checks to play violent heroes who blow things up and kiss pretty women. Is that really all you want to give back? Michael's jaw flexed, his hand gripping the armrest. He leaned forward slightly, his voice calm but edged with steel. With all due respect, you have no idea what I do with my platform. I've created production companies to elevate black filmmakers. I've funded scholarships. I've supported community initiatives you've probably never even heard of. Sunny waved her hand dismissively, her tone dripping with disdain. A few tax write-offs don't erase the fact that you're perpetuating the angry black man or violent hero stereotype. You're selling Hollywood's narrative, and you're calling it progress. The room froze. No laughter, no whispers, just stillness. Michael's voice dropped lower, steadier. I tell stories that matter to people. Stories about family, about redemption, about overcoming adversity. If you actually watched my films instead of making assumptions, you'd know that. Spare me the press release, Sunny shot back. When was the last time you turned down a paycheck because a role leaned on stereotypes? When was the last time you walked away from a script because it didn't uplift the community? The audience shifted uneasily. The clash was no longer subtle, it was a head-on collision of values, responsibility, and ego. And it was only just beginning. The air inside the studio was suffocating now. The easy laughter from earlier had evaporated, replaced by a palpable unease that spread through the audience like wildfire. Michael leaned forward, eyes locked on Sunny. His voice was calm, but every syllable carried weight. You want to talk about responsibility? Let's talk about it. I've been responsible my whole career. I've carried roles that break barriers. I've invested in stories that elevate voices. But what you're doing right now, this isn't accountability. This is a takedown. The audience erupted into mixed reactions, some applauding his conviction, others murmuring in discomfort. Sunny didn't flinch. She leaned in, her finger tapping the table. Takedown. No, Michael. This is me asking why someone with your power chooses to settle. You're a role model. People look up to you. And instead of standing at the front lines of change, you're playing pretend heroes while real people fight real battles. Whoopi Goldberg finally intervened, raising her hands. All right. Let's bring this down a notch, but Michael wasn't done. His voice cut through the noise, louder now, sharper. Don't tell me I'm not at the front lines. You don't know the sacrifices I've made. You don't know the projects I've fought for behind closed doors. But because it doesn't fit your narrative, you dismiss it. That's not fair. That's not honest. The crowd clapped, some even whistling. The tension was electric, impossible to contain. Sunny's tone turned icy, deliberate. What's not honest is pretending blowing up cars on screen somehow translates to real change. Michael snapped back instantly. And what's not honest is reducing everything I've done to a headline about stereotypes. You want to box me in, but I refuse to let anyone Hollywood or you define what roles I should take. The panel was unraveling. Joy Behar looked visibly uncomfortable. Sarah N. fiddled nervously with her pen. And Whoopi's expression was carved with frustration. The audience was glued to the unfolding drama, their gasps and cheers fueling the firestorm. For a moment, there was silence. The kind of silence that hums with expectation. The silence right before something snaps. The storm wasn't just brewing anymore, it was about to break wide open. The tension was unbearable. Even the cameras seemed to hesitate, zooming in and pulling back like they weren't sure whether this was still an interview or a battleground. Sunny leaned forward, her arms folded tightly across her chest. Her voice was sharp, every word chosen to wound. You keep talking about what you've done behind the scenes. Fine. But when the world sees you, what do they see? Another brooding, muscular black man with fists raised and explosions behind him. You may think you're breaking barriers, but you're recycling the same tropes Hollywood has always used. That's not elevation. That's playing it safe. Gasps rippled through the studio. Joy shifted in her chair, muttering under her breath, "Oh boy." Michael's hands tightened on the edge of the table, his knuckles white. He breathed deeply, trying to keep his composure. Safe? You think it's safe to be a black man in Hollywood fighting to direct, to produce, to own my own projects? You think it's safe to demand diversity on set? To push back on scripts written by people who don't look like me, who don't live like me? Nothing about this career has been safe. Every step I've had to fight. His voice cracked slightly, not with weakness, but with the kind of passion that silences a room. The audience hushed, caught in the gravity of the moment. But Sunny was relentless. She pointed at him, her tone like a hammer. Yet you still chose the money. The big blockbuster roles. The stereotypes wrapped in shiny packaging. When was the last time you turned down a script because it didn't uplift the community? Michael's jaw clenched. He stared at her, his voice low but steady. You think I haven't? I've walked away from roles worth more than you can imagine. I've sat in boardrooms arguing for representation. I've fought for scripts to show depth, to show humanity. But you don't see that. You don't want to see it. You've already decided who I am based on a movie poster. The words hung heavy in the air. Whoopi shifted uncomfortably, her voice almost pleading. Sunny, maybe that's enough. But Sunny shook her head, her eyes still fixed on Michael. No, he needs to answer. He needs to be accountable. Michael's chair scraped loudly against the floor as he leaned forward, his eyes locked on her. Accountable to who? To you. Or to the millions of people who already see themselves in my work. The studio was silent. The breaking point had arrived. The silence after Michael's words was like a vacuum, pulling the oxygen from the room. You could hear the faint hum of the cameras, the nervous coughs from the audience, even the scribbling of a producer's pen backstage. Michael sat rigid, shoulders tense, his eyes never leaving Sonny's. His calmness was a thin veil stretched over raw fury. "You sit at this desk every day," he said, his voice steady but cutting. "Reading from cue cards, cashing checks from one of the biggest corporations in the world, and you want to lecture me about integrity? About challenging the system? Tell me, Sonny, what have you built?" The audience gasped audibly. Even Joy's jaw dropped. Sonny didn't flinch, though her nostrils flared as if she'd been struck. "I've built a career on truth," she shot back. "I speak to power. I don't cozy up to it." Michael shook his head, a bitter laugh escaping. "No, you ambush, you tear down, you attack, and then you call it journalism. But what you did here today? That's not truth. That's character assassination." His words reverberated through the studio. For the first time, Sonny faltered, her lips parting without sound. She slammed her palm against the table, the mugs rattling. "I ask hard questions. If you can't handle scrutiny, maybe you're too comfortable in your stardom?" Michael rose slowly from his chair, the movement deliberate, powerful. He unclipped the microphone from his lapel and placed it firmly on the table. The high-pitched feedback squealed through the speakers, sending a jolt through the room. The audience collectively inhaled. This was it. "I came here," Michael said, his voice low and resonant, "to share my work. To have a conversation. What I got instead was a public trial, judged by someone who decided my worth before I opened my mouth. I don't owe you or anyone an explanation for my existence." Sonny leaned forward, her eyes narrowing. "So you're walking away because you can't handle a tough question?" Michael turned, pausing at the edge of the stage. He glanced back just once, his gaze sharp enough to cut glass. "No, I'm walking away because this isn't a conversation. It's a performance. And I respect myself too much to play this part." With that, he strode off. The audience erupted, some clapping, some booing, phones flying up to capture the historic moment. The studio wasn't just tense anymore. It was in chaos. Michael B. Jordan had walked out. The studio erupted like a dam breaking. Half the audience stood, clapping wildly for Michael's defiance. The other half booed, jeering at his sudden exit. Shouts clashed in midair, the noise swelling into something unmanageable. Phones were raised high, recording every second. The control room's frantic voices screamed through earpieces, "Cut to commercial." Cut to commercial now. But the cameras lingered at the table. Sonny sat rigid, her chin high, though her hands trembled faintly against her notes. A smirk ghosted across her lips, but her eyes betrayed something darker, urge, or maybe uncertainty. She tapped a pen against the desk, masking the adrenaline rushing through her veins. Whoopi Goldberg, standing now, hands on her hips, exhaled sharply. Her voice sliced through the storm that was completely inappropriate. He was a guest. We invited him here not to ambush him. The audience quieted slightly, sensing the weight of Whoopi's words. Sonny leaned back in her chair, unbothered. "I did my job," she said coolly. "If Michael B. Jordan can't handle tough questions, then maybe he should stick to red carpets and scripted interviews." Joy Behar's face twisted in disbelief. "Tough questions?" she snapped. "Sonny, those weren't questions. That was personal. You made up your mind about him before he even said hello." The audience murmured in agreement. Some nodded, some hissed. Sarah N., usually the calmest on the panel, leaned forward, her voice trembling with suppressed frustration. "You turned it into a trial, Sonny. Not an interview. There's a difference." Sonny's eyes flashed like steel. "Oh, please. Don't lecture me. Michael Jordan," she spat the name out as if it burned, "has been given a free pass by this industry for too long. I didn't attack him. I held up a mirror." From the back rows, a woman's voice cut through the noise. "You should be ashamed of yourself." The audience gasped as security rushed in to calm her down. Tears streaked the woman's cheeks as she shouted, "My son looks up to him." You humiliated a good man. Sunny whipped toward her, voice sharp and cold. I don't owe him or you anything. I owe the truth to viewers. The tension was unbearable now. The studio split in two. This wasn't just fallout. This was a live implosion. Backstage, the air was electric with panic. Producers sprinted through the narrow halls, headsets buzzing like angry bees. The executive producer stood frozen for a moment, watching Michael's silhouette vanish down the corridor. His team had already gathered his belongings, phones ringing non-stop, PR reps whispering urgently into headsets. In his dressing room, Michael sat in silence. His head was bowed, elbows resting on his knees, chest rising and falling in slow, controlled breaths. His publicist stood guard at the door, her phone lighting up every second with calls from CNN, TMZ, Variety, and every outlet desperate for his comment. Michael said nothing. The silence in that room was almost heavier than the storm he had just left behind. Meanwhile, the control room was a battlefield. Monitors flickered between the divided audience, the shaken hosts, and the furious producers waving frantically from behind the cameras. The director muttered under his breath, "This is a disaster. But it's the best ratings we'll ever get." His hands hovered over the switcher, unsure whether to cut the chaos or let it roll. But the world outside had already caught fire. Within minutes, hashtag The View Meltdown and hashtag Michael BJ or Dan Walks Out were trending worldwide. Clips of the walk-off spread like wildfire across Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Headlines were being written in real time. Michael B. Jordan storms off The View. Sunny Hostin pushes too far. The interview that exploded live on TV. Podcasters were live streaming reactions. YouTubers clipped the moment into reaction videos before the credits even rolled. The internet didn't wait for explanations. It wanted blood, sides, and instant judgment. Back in the studio, the tension refused to die. Whoopi tried to regain control, commanding the cameras, "We're going to commercial." But the audience wouldn't quiet down. Boos and applause clashed like dueling thunder. Joy leaned toward Sunny, voice low but venomous. "You just blew up the whole show. Are you happy now?" Sunny's eyes flickered, but she didn't look away. "I told the truth. That's my job," Sarah, shaking her head, whispered. "No. Sunny, that was personal." For a beat, the stage was frozen in fractured silence for women sitting at the same table. But the cracks between them wide and irreparable. The chaos wasn't contained anymore. It was global. When the cameras came back from commercial, the set looked calm, but the silence was a disguise. The audience was restless, whispering, phones still buzzing with the clips they had just recorded. The tension was so thick you could almost see it hanging in the air. Whoopi Goldberg faced the cameras, her voice measured but cutting. "We want to apologize to our viewers," she said. "Discussions can be passionate, but that's no excuse for disrespect. Michael B. Jordan is a gifted actor and a respected voice, and we regret that his time here ended the way it did." She didn't look at Sunny, not once. Sunny shifted in her seat, her chin high, but her body rigid. She opened her mouth to speak, but Whoopi's raised hand silenced her. The message was clear. Enough. Joy leaned back, arms crossed, her eyes locked on Sunny with open disdain. Sarah stared down at her hands, too shaken to speak. The unity of the panel was shattered, their chemistry poisoned. As the credits rolled and the studio lights dimmed, the fallout began in real time. The audience filed out, many of them muttering under their breath. Some shook their heads in disapproval, others angrily muttered that Sunny had gone too far. A few still defended her, but their voices were drowned by the storm of outrage. Backstage. Michael's dressing room was barricaded by his team. He refused interviews, his silence saying more than words ever could. His phone buzzed with messages of support from celebrities, activists, and fans who were already framing him as the victim of an unfair ambush. Sunny, however, sat at the empty table long after the others had left. The crew avoided her eyes as they tore down the set. Her earlier fire was gone, replaced with something quieter, unease she couldn't admit, not even to herself. For the first time, she looked less like the fearless journalist she claimed to be and more like someone who had lit a match and realized too late how fast the fire spreads. The debate had already left the studio and entered the world. Was Sunny exposing hard truths about celebrity responsibility, or had she crossed a line no journalist should ever cross? Was Michael justified in walking out, or had he abandoned a chance for a deeper conversation? The answers would ripple through headlines, podcasts, classrooms, and dinner tables. But one thing was certain. Michael B. Jordan's walk-off wasn't just an interview gone wrong. It was a cultural moment, a fault line that split the room and the nation wide open. So now the question falls to you. Was Michael B. Jordan right to walk away protecting his dignity and refusing to play into what he called a performance? Or was Sunny Hostin right to press harder than anyone expected, holding a celebrity accountable for choices most never question? This wasn't just a TV clash. It was a cultural earthquake. Two powerful voices collided on live television, and the ripple effects are still spreading. Some call Michael a hero for standing his ground. Others say Sunny was fearless for demanding answers no one else would dare ask. But what about you? Whose side are you on? Are you Team Michael applauding his decision to walk out and draw the line against what he saw as character assassination? Or are you Team Sunny, defending her belief that true journalism means asking the uncomfortable, even brutal questions? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Be honest. Be raw. We want to hear how you saw it unfold. And if you want more deep dives into the moments where fame collides with truth, where interviews turn into battlefields, hit that subscribe button. Because this isn't just entertainment, it's the story of who we are,